Denyce. I am in my orchard and in my garden. I love singing and I love cooking. So I'd like to invite you to my home where we can laugh and have fun and cook and talk and create something beautiful and delicious. Join me. Many of my friends have said to me over the years, "We think you've missed your calling, Denyce. You shouldn't have been a singer at all. You should have been a party planner, or you should have been a baker." Well, I think I still should have been a singer, but I also enjoy cooking. So I want to invite you to my home. I hope you can join us. It's going to be a lot of fun and delicious. Time to get cooking. Tout le monde. Hello, everybody. Well, there is no way to do a cooking show without talking about France. France has had an enormous impact on American culture, food, and wine. And people around the world dream of visiting the City of Lights or the City of Love in Paris to see the Eiffel Tower or to take a stroll along the Seine or to visit the chateaus or the wineries and the villages around the country. France has floated freely in the American imagination more than any other country, I think. And Americans have had an endless fascination with everything French. Right? We have French fries, French bread, French toast, French dressing, French doors, French braids, French manicures, which, by the way, is not a thing over there. Halloween is coming up, and many people like to dress up as the French maids. And that still remains a fantasy for partners of both men and women alike. And then there's my favorite, of course, the French kiss. Americans voted the French accent the sexiest accent of all. Americans crave France and have been allured there by the promise of pleasure and freedom. Students, businessmen, journalists began traveling to Paris in search of new opportunities and continuing education, and artists and writers flocked there, particularly in the wake of the American wars. Black jazz musicians took up residence in France, inspired by the relative lack of racism and the working opportunities and the appreciation for French audience, the appreciation that the French audiences showed to their art. Josephine Baker, American-born, was a French entertainer and a civil rights activist, but whose career was centered primarily in her adopted France. Well, today, in episode 8, we're calling this Ménage à Trois. And I will be joined today by two very, very dear friends who are French. And together we are an American who lived in France, that was me, a French woman living in America, and a French woman living in Paris. All together today in our separate kitchens. One will make an appetizer, another will make the entree, which is the wrong word actually. Entree really in French means appetizer, but we call it the entree, the main course. And I will make the dessert. They are two very, very, very dear friends of mine. One is Valérie Chaussonnet. Valérie and I met, I don't know how many years ago, at a party in Washington, D.C., and we became fast friends and have been friends ever since. And in fact, she was the one who taught me all of my French for all of my French roles. I studied that with her. And then there's Laurence Uebersfeld, who is a very dear friend who I actually met at a spiritual retreat. And she and I got in trouble together because during the vow of silence, we were talking the whole time. So, anyway, Valérie, they are both sculptors. Laurence Uebersfeld is a sculptor and a filmmaker. She did a film about the opera, the Richard Danielpour and Toni Morrison opera from the beloved text called Margaret Garner. And I think we'll show some of that later on the outro. Valérie Chaussonnet, also a sculptor, is an artist and a French diction coach.
My name is Valérie Chaussonnet. I'm French and American. I was born in Paris. I lived in Provence as a teenager. I studied in Bordeaux, Paris, Kiev, Ukraine, Berkeley, California, and Quebec City in Canada. My mom is from Brittany. My dad is from the region of Toulouse in the southwest of France near the Pyrenees. I've been teaching French around the dinner table until COVID with a program I invented and called French over Dinner, a part of the offerings from my school, La Petite Provence, Austin. Food being central to French culture and important to me, I figured it would help the students if they're immersed in a dinner and pretended to be in France for 3 hours. I came to the US in my 20s to study. I worked at the Smithsonian Institution as a researcher, a Russian translator, and a museum anthropologist for 11 years in the late 1980s and 1990s. I started studying sculpture at the Corcoran Art School at night after work, around the year when I met Denyce in DC in 1988. One of my favorite hats is that of French pronunciation coach for musicians. Now we do it with Zoom, like everything else and everyone else. But I've done a lot of it for early musicians. There are lots of early musicians delivering beautiful concerts around Austin with the Texas Early Music Project and La Folia. And I've really enjoyed it, and I enjoy helping Denyce's students.
And there we have it. Valérie, coucou chérie. Tu m'entends?
Comment ça va?
And très, très bien. And there's Laurence coming from
Bonjour Laurence.
City of Lights.
Hello, girls.
This is so much fun. I'm so excited to have you both here. Thank you so much for doing this. I love you both, and I know that you're both magnificent in the kitchen because I've had the great opportunity to sit at your kitchen tables many, 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 many times. Okay, so we're going to start first with Laurence, who is going to, I think, prepare something which is quintessential French. You want to tell us about that, Laurence?
So today, Denyce, thank you so much for asking me when I called you the other day. And you said, why don't we do it together? That was great. And I'm glad to meet you, Valérie. So today we're going to do the soufflé, which is basically what French people do on Friday evening when there is nothing left much in the fridge. And the first thing you need to do for the soufflé is to put your oven, because the heat has to be perfect. So it's a thermostat 6, and just make sure that you have everything on. Then, so then you need to have butter. So you put butter and then you make it melt. It's better that it's in very short pieces, so it melts better.
I believe that everybody has the recipe too, or at least it's on Linktree, the exact measurements for everything.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny, Denyce, I'm always so grateful to you because you're really the one who told me about gratitude, and I always remember that in my heart. That I
Well,
remember. I remember so well when you were singing in the. You were singing Carmen in the Price Opera, and you talked about it, and it was. It always stayed with me how we should always be grateful. So even though I'm not a professional cook, I am so grateful again to be able to cook with you. So you have to melt the butter. It has to be really soft things, and then very slowly you have to add the flour. So that's really easy. You just turn. Nothing to worry about. And the fun thing about souffle is that you can do it with anything you want, from cheese to chocolate to whatever comes to your mind. And there is a great restaurant in Paris called Le Récamier that only does souffle.
Wow.
So, you just wait until it melts. And I always have this memory, Denyce, of you when, for Christmas, you always made those ridiculous cakes. They were, big, big cakes. And then each year they were...
American cakes.
Yeah, each year they were a bit bigger. And it was so fun. So then you have to add the milk very slowly. You keep stirring. Nothing really... just stirring, which really souffle. You don't have to worry about it. You just stir and everything comes alive.
But I thought you do have to worry about souffle. Isn't it
very
particular?
The only thing you have to worry about souffle is that you follow the recipe very well. So
I love this, Laurence.
It's better if you prepare everything before, like I did, so here you add the butter and, and then little by little you add everything. And then, I hope, I hope it's true, but I don't think you can really miss it. It looks like it's a really fancy dish, but it's really something that you can have, when you only have eggs and cheese and butter and milk in your fridge.
Yeah. Right, but the timing of it has to be exactly perfect, right?
And that's the only difficult thing for someone a bit dreamy like me, that you have to really respect the timing. But
again, I think on Linktree, you can get the exact measurements of everything so that you can make it yourselves at home.
And but you always cook really great food. And when I was watching the beginning of the show, I was thinking, well, there's nothing from your garden today because I'm in Paris and there is no garden.
Oh, well, I have lots of things from my garden today.
Great.
I've got the lettuce and I've got peppers and I've got onion and I have zucchini flowers, which we'll talk about later when we do our salad. I fried the zucchini flowers and to put into the salad.
That's wonderful, Denyce. That's very Provençal.
I thought it was also Italian.
Italian.
But it's
Provençal food and Italian food are very close together.
Yeah.
So the only thing about souffle is that you have to keep stirring until the milk gets a bit thicker. So you just have to keep waiting. Yeah? And I was thinking, Denyce, because I've seen you in so many places. And then all of a sudden I realized that I still have your daughter's baby bed in my basement. And then I thought, now I saw Ella not long ago, and I thought, probably I'm going to keep it until she is a mother herself.
Oh.
And you can reuse it.
May that be a long time from now.
Yes, it probably will be.
No, but really, you two ladies are so great. I mean, you're two of my dearest friends. When I was right after I had Ella in Paris, and most all of our children except Max were born overseas. But right after I had Ella, Laurence was such a big help to me. Remember when I had such a difficult time? This may be a little bit TMI, expressing the milk, and you were helping me. You were helping me to help to nurse the baby. Everybody was, at a
And
certain
then
point.
so now it's time to add the eggs because it's a bit thicker. So you just keep adding and melting. Yeah, and I remember when you bought those socks with for Ella. They were so cute. They were like socks that looked like shoes,
Yeah.
and it was so incredibly cute. So then,
So now, Laurence, you just you melted the butter.
yeah. So
You
now
put the
it's
egg.
and if you feel it's too hot, then you can put it next to the on the. You can take it out of the heat. So then you have to add a tiny bit of nutmeg, which I already grated for you. Then you add a bit of salt, and then a bit of pepper, and you add the grated cheese, and you keep turning. As I said, it's really easy. You just keep turning.
Keep stirring, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Keep stirring. So I'll just show you what it looks like. It's just a bit, it's just a bit thing so that you keep stirring.
Very good. Valerie, you must make that a lot. Do you? When your children
I've
were
never
little.
made a souffle in my life. I'm fascinated.
Well, you know why people don't make souffle because you have to be okay. This is what you say in French. The guest can wait. The souffle cannot wait because the souffle is timed by the moon. That's the only complicated thing. It means that the guest cannot be 1 minute late, and that never happens. So
that's the trick. It's like when the souffle is ready, before it falls, it has to be served and eaten.
Yeah.
So, the souffle is more important than the people's timing that way.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun thing about it. But I actually never made a souffle, but I am going to today after the show.
Oh, are you really?
And I remember, when you were doing, so now you have to add the egg white that are already did up. The only thing you have to put some salt in it so they stick. And you have to put them slowly so you don't break them, So you just put them very slowly.
You fold them in.
So fold in the egg whites.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're like made stiff. They were beaten stiff.
And I remember, when you were doing Margaret Garner, I think it was in Cincinnati, you had this beautiful house and each time you cooked those wonderful, no, maybe it was in Detroit. You had this wonderful house and then you were cooking, but then I remember you invited us with the crew, but then you said, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you because I'm singing tomorrow. So you made this wonderful meal, and we just ate and ate.
But I didn't speak.
And you said, I'm happy to have you around, but I can't talk to you. And actually, you did the same thing to me when I came to hear you to sing Porgy and Bess for my birthday, You took me to dinner and you said, sorry, I can't talk to you.
My mom was just here. She said hello to you, Laurence. She was just on the screen, and I see Celeste Mann. Oh, there's my mom again. So good to see and hear you. You remember my mother. Celeste says, she has the Margaret Garner documentary. So, yes, so this is the producer, Celeste. And I saw Sandy Jo Malman here and lots of people who returned. Thank you all so much. We only have 3 more shows left, so please tell all your friends to come and watch the last 3.
Okay. So now, okay, you have to have a souffle pot. The souffle pot is something you can use for anything else. The only thing, it has to be thick enough. You know, it has to be high enough. So I took some small ones. What you have to do is you have to butter it with a brush. And I don't know why, but you cannot put your fingers inside. Apparently, if you put your fingers inside, the souffle doesn't rise. I have no clue why. So you just, you know, paint it with butter, and you should do it everywhere with a little painting brush. I promise I didn't use that for my sculpting. I bought it new just for. And then after that, you have to flour the pot. So you just take a bit of flour, you know, like this. And then you just shake it like that. And whatever is left over, you throw away.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is the thing. I have to put the souffle inside the pot.
Bonne chance.
So make sure you okay, the important thing for the souffle, only put it halfway the dish. Because otherwise, if it's higher, it doesn't rise. And again, I have no clue why.
Well, it would escape into your oven because it's going to rise so much.
It spill over, yeah.
Yeah. So you have a choice. You can either have one big dish, and or you can have small ones. But I think small ones are cuter because then everybody can eat their own.
Lola Watson, I made a cheese souffle for the first course for my wedding dinner and 10 guests.
Oh.
Timing was everything. I popped it in the oven, took my vows, shared a champagne toast, and we sat down to dinner, coming up on 39 years ago and New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve. Ah, well, congratulations, Miss Lola. That's amazing. They should erect a statue in the center of town for you. 39 years is not easy. That's not an easy gig, I know. Congratulations.
Okay, so I'm almost done. Now you put the oven on. I mean, you put the oven open. Then you just put those things in.
Okay.
And then very, very importantly.
How many are you making?
Well, I was planning to only make 4, but then I have an extra, so I'm making 6 little ones.
Okay, very good.
And then this is the most important thing. You take your phone and you time it. So, I time it to 23 minutes, but it should be 25. And very so good. You have your souffle. And speaking of gratitude, you know, I also want to thank Eve, which organized the retreat where you and I met. And he's also such a wonderful friend.
Yeah, she is lovely. She is
lovely.
And
she's my friend too. I love Eve.
Yes, of course. I received my opera blend yesterday. Thanks so much. That really made my day. Christina, I'm so glad you did. Okay, Miss Valerie, what are we doing?
Okay, so what we're doing, we're making crepes. And the preparation doesn't take very long. But the Breton crepes are made with buckwheat, which is different from wheat. It's actually not a wheat, it's a grass. So you get it as a grain, and the advantage, it's like gluten-free. And you put, let's say, 2 cups. I have the same measuring system as most of your guests on the show.
Yeah.
So I'm showing here. Then I'm going to put some eggs. And one trick for crepes is that you put more eggs than you think you're going to need. And if the crepes break when you're making them in the pan and they're breaking apart, add some more eggs. People have the instinct to add some flour, but the flour won't help. It's the eggs that holds it together.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So you don't...
Go ahead.
No, I thought so. You don't add more flowers, you just add more eggs. That's good to know.
Yes, and my crepes are a little lighter than they make them in the north of France, except for Brittany. So the tradition is from Brittany originally. All right, so I've put 5 eggs. That's going to be good.
5 eggs, 2 cups of flour.
Yes, you can put 6. Now it's buckwheat. If you're making with the sweet crepes, I would put 8 eggs.
But you're making a
When
savory.
I'm making the savory. If I were to make the sweet ones, that would be way more eggs. And
Thank
also,
you, Patty.
I would stir the eggs one by one. The buckwheat mixes really easily. See, it's like it's working. With the wheat, it's very hard, and you can use a blender if you want. I really like to use my hands and to use the whisk and to do this. Okay, so now it's a nice paste. Now you use the liquid, and the liquid you can put milk, which is the classic thing, but you can put beer if you want. If you put beer, it won't be gluten-free. Dark beer is delicious. And then you can put cider. We drink cider with crepes, so I'm going to put some cider in. And it's nice. It makes some bubbles. You can put some water. So the measurements for this is going to be the consistency. And that's where it's so wonderful having it on the show rather than measurements, because you can see the consistency and you have to get to the right consistency. So now it's kind of like an American pancake would be. Crepes are nothing like American pancakes. I'm going to add some water. You make them like a custard. So I put a lot of water and people are like horrified. They say, oh my God, it's so liquidy. That's the way it is. And I'll show you in a second with the ladle how you do that.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is it. Look at this. It's very, very liquidy. It smells delicious. Buckwheat is very different from regular, flour. When you do the sweet crepes, you want to do it with all-purpose flour. You don't do pastry flour or anything. Okay, see how liquid it is? So now I'm ready to go. It's that simple.
Wow. Excellent.
That's something you can also do on Friday night when there is nothing else to eat. Just like Laurence and I, we know what we're eating on Friday night.
Yeah.
So the butter, I put like a little, teaspoon, or we like to say a walnut worth of butter. I spread it. I like to use stick-free, what do you call it? Non-stick pan, because they are light. I like to cook with cast iron, but cast iron I would get proper tunnel if I had to do this, because you use your wrist a lot for crepes.
And it's interesting. People, I don't know why, but people from Brittany always make the best crepes. So we think we have the same recipe, but people who are not from Brittany, they don't do it as well. And it's really odd. I would always say maybe it's genetic. They have the crepe genes that we don't have.
So let me show, because like it's off the fire. So I put it on. It looks a little thick to me, but see how I'm fitting with my wrists? It's a little thick. So if it's thick, no problem. I put whatever is too much. I want it thin. And it's difficult because it's not...
I'm sorry, Bertie Ray III says, dark beer in the crepe mix, I'm all in.
Yes. Wow. It's really nice. It's just that it doesn't make it gluten. There is gluten in the beer. So if you're trying to cook for your gluten-free friends, don't put beer, put cider. Or milk if they're not dairy free, you know, and so on. But for me, I try to avoid dairy except butter. So I put water or cider like this. Okay, so now it's going. I have little holes. It's a little difficult because it was not on the fire when I was showing it. But in a minute, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to make a few and then I can show the garnish. Wasn't there something you wanted to show, Denyce?
Well, I wanted to talk about the first giveaway. So the first giveaway that we're doing today, the first giveaway goes to the first, are going to be spices for the first 3 people who email to cookingwithdenyce@gmail.com. And also include your address, please. Where did I meet Valérie? Where did I meet Valérie? So the first 3 people who can email at cookingwithdenyce.com, cookingwithdenyce@gmail.com, include your name and your address, please. The first 3 people, I will send you some of my wonderful spice that was created for this program by the Salt Table. So you can also get it yourself if you go to www.salttables.com. But they made a very special blend for this Cooking with Denyce show. And I saw that Patty Alford, hi Patty, I saw that you were there. I thank you so much. And thank you everybody who comes back every Sunday. It means so much to us to get the numbers and see where a lot of the interest is coming from. So also please do go to YouTube and subscribe and like us if you like what we're doing. So I'm sorry, Valérie, tell me what you were saying, sweetheart. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect. That's wonderful. So my crepe, I take my spatula, and then I turned it, and then now it's turned on the side. Then I'm putting the garnish, and the classic garnish is for the complex, which is a complete, but you can adapt to what you like and don't like. I put a piece of ham, and it's interesting. It's cooked ham, which in France we call jambon de Paris. So we say it's Parisian ham, as opposed to raw ham like prosciutto, which in France we call jambon de Bayonne, which is a region in the Basque Country. And then I put an egg on the top.
Wow.
And the egg, the trick for the egg is I use a fork. I try to preserve the yolk and I spread the white so that it can cook and it's not gooey. And I use this, because in France, as you know, we don't do over easy. We only do sunny side up. And sometimes the white is not cooked enough. So you have to maneuver a little bit carefully. And in Brittany, it's called œuf miroir, like a mirror. And it stays in the middle. So now see the white is cooking nicely. Then I put my emmental, my gruyère, like this. Then I put a little bit of Denyce's spices. Woo! Woo! A little oregano. It smells so good. A pinch of salt if your ham is not too salty.
Thank you, Anne. Valérie, someone posed the question and asked if that was a special pan that you were using for the crepes. Celeste Mann wanted to know if that was a special crepe pan.
So there are there are pans that are being sold for crepes. There's even like some really fancy ones. For me, I have a very non-fancy non-stick, but very shallow. And I like the non-stick because it's very light and I can maneuver as much as I want. Now, the way to finish this, you see it here, is I put the yolk back in the center and I fold in 4 little corners and I make a little square. And the yolk is in the center.
Ah.
And now it's on my plate.
Voila.
That's a doing. Et voilà.
Et voilà.
So it's like souffle in the sense that when it's ready, you serve the people around the table And you don't wait until everybody is served. You eat as you're going. So the cook is like cooking and bringing the crepes as we're going and asking for different orders, kind of like you would do omelets. So here it is. Here's my crepe.
That's gorgeous.
That's beautiful.
It's like
And
a present.
For Mardi Gras, then you make them and you make a wish at the same time, right, Valérie?
Yes.
Aww.
So for Mardi Gras, you make the sweet ones and you flip them with your pan and you hold the corn in your hand for good luck and you flip them and then you do them with jam or sugar or Nutella, which of course is Italian, but all the French thing is French.
And you make a wish.
And you make a wish. Well, it's always good to make a wish when you're cooking anyways.
That's right. And I think
so when you eat this, when you eat with the œuf miroir, you go like this and you spread the yolk and then you can eat it. If people are a little weird about raw egg yolk, then they have scrambled, and that's œuf brouillé. And that's the two options in Brittany is œuf miroir, which is like this, sunny side up, or œuf brouillé.
And
and I love the taste of buckwheat. It's almost earthy. It's stronger. It's absolutely delicious, and the color is really gorgeous too. So I make them
fabulous.
a lot.
Oh, that's gorgeous. I'm going to make that. That is beautiful. I love it. And this point brings us to our food for thought. Our food for thought. So most of us were taught to say grace before we eat, right? To give thanks for what we were about to receive. But grace can be defined in many, many ways. We can show and extend grace to people every day. And showing grace to others is a matter of dealing with them kindly, even when we don't think that they deserve it. And the gestures don't need to be monumental. They can be small. We can show grace with words. We can use words that are kind and words that are gentle. Obviously, there are some times where you can't do that, or where that is not called for. But we can always be kind and not hateful or mean-spirited. And remember that our wonderful, just recently departed Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, getting angry is self-defeating. But we can extend small gestures of holding the door for someone. I remember when my daughter was younger, we got on an elevator, and the person that got on the elevator, I said hello. And when we got to our floor, Ella said to me, she said, they didn't say hello back. And I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we said it and we put it out there, and that's what's important. So we can be gracious in that way. We can be gracious in the presence of difficulty for someone. Both of the women that I'm with today have been incredible friends to me. When my husband was very ill, Valérie was doing Reiki all the time, and Laurence was there when I gave birth to my daughter, and had been such a wonderful friend to me during my time in Paris, which was wonderful. So we can also respond in grace. And I remember a story when I was working at Castleton, the music festival. I was working with a young singer, and I made a comment that I'm not sure that she really liked, but she kept saying, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with me, and thank you so much for sharing your opinion. And I knew that it was difficult for her to hear, but she touched me so much, and I thought about her, and I carry her with me all the time. Whenever there's something that I have to hear, and maybe that I don't want to hear, or it's hard to accept, I always think of how she extended that grace to me, and I want to pay that forward. So it's important, of course, that you don't allow people to walk all over you, but we must vocalize the truth and try to use words that bring life. So today, let's stir in grace into what we serve ourselves and others. And that's your food for thought today.
Thank you, Denyce.
You're welcome. All right, is it my turn?
It's your turn. We can wait.
So this was so involved, you guys. This was so I wanted to do something too that was quintessential French, and I wanted to do something that was meaningful to people in my house. And this is my daughter's one of her favorite French desserts. and it's called Tarte Tropezienne. And this was created in the South. It was created in Saint-Tropez in 1955. I think it was a Polish chef who made this for the cast of And God Created Woman. That Brigitte Bardot
Oh,
was there. Do you know that film?
Yeah, of course.
one
Yeah,
of
so
my favorite
chef
movies. Yes.
Alexandre Maika was the chef, a Polish chef, and he created this for the cast. And actually, Brigitte Bardot uh, gave it its name, even though it's not really a tarte. She called it Tarte Tropezienne or Tarte Saint-Trope from Saint-Tropez. But it is an involved thing, you guys. I made it before when we were living in France. I made it twice, but there's a whole lot of praying involved and a lot of cussing too. So I know the two don't go together. But so it was really, really, really a lot. Hi Jan, I'm here watching from Switzerland. Thanks with Eleanor. Hi Eleanor. Okay, so this is super, super involved, you guys. There's a brioche part, and that's very particular. There's a streusel part, which is very, very involved. There's the Mediterranean syrup that you have to make, which is very involved. And then there's the Tropezienne cream, which is very, very involved. And it takes, there are a lot of steps. It takes a long time. I started actually last night. But I want to show you, I did finish some, and we can, if we have time, I did do this one. I did some different ones, some with just what do you call it, pearl sugar on the top. And then I did one with what's called a streusel. So too bad you guys don't live nearby, because look at all this cake. And then there's another one that I'm going to. There's
For
another one
sure.
I'm going. But I had to make them just in case it didn't turn out, and in case I made an oops or boo-boo or something
Oh.
like that, you know. So those are backup cakes, and my husband loves that. Anyway, so this tart, which looks more like a panettone, because this was from the leftover dough that I had. You take that, okay, and you
Oh.
use. Oh, I know. It's fantastic. And I left these in the freezer too long. I left look at what
Remember, I'm coming soon, so hold the
I was gonna say in
hold
the
the
freezer
phone.
until I'm flying up.
I was supposed to take these out of the freezer. But anyhow, all of the ingredients for everything is going to be on Linktree that will be left, that you can get the recipe, because it is super, super, super involved, and it does really take 2 days, because the brioche dough needs to be prepared a day before, and that takes a long time. Who is that? Antoinette. Thank you, ladies, for sharing your time and tasty dishes. That's wonderful. I think my husband's around here somewhere, aren't you, honey? Um, and so what I'm going to do is you just cut this in half, right? And then you layer that. It's frozen. I put the creme in the freezer so it could make sure it could get it hard, but then I forgot about it. I was watching you all the whole time, and I forgot all about that. But also, the brioche dough is super, super finicky. The temperature has to be right. The room temperature has to be right. The ingredients all have to be room temperature, and the sugar and the salt cannot touch the yeast. Did you know that? Because it kills the yeast if it does. So you have to keep them apart. Who's that? That's my mom. I'm on my way. That's my mom. So
Hi, mom.
uh, you remember my mother when she would come to France a
Yeah.
lot, Laurence, and Valérie too, of course.
Of
Yeah,
course, of course.
yeah, yeah. So I'm just gonna cut that in half, and I'm not sure that we're actually even gonna have time. What I did do, I made a video of myself going through all the different steps, which we're gonna post later to Facebook, so you can see me last night and this morning going through all of the different steps, because you can't do that live because it just takes so much time. You can do it if you pre-record, but not live. Um,
Well,
so
Denise,
anyhow,
you and Laurence, you like to live dangerously, trying
I'm
to
an
do
opera
something
singer.
so tricky.
It's really, really, really involved. I mean, this is really something. Uh, but I'm happy that I did it. But my gosh, there was a lot of, when you put it in the oven, you just cannot leave, particularly for the brioche. You've got 12 minutes. And it like a souffle. It's very, very particular. You just have to really nurse it and stay there and be watchful. But the Mediterranean syrup is delicious, and what that is that's water and it's sugar, and then you take you zest an orange, and then you take the vanilla bean. You have to actually get the vanilla bean itself, split that in half, and take out the seeds in the center. Put that all in some milk, and then you put in this magnificent thing called orange blossom water. This is one of the most delicious things you'll ever smell in your life. It reminded me of when I was in Seville. I was some years ago. I was in Seville doing a concert, and I was walking down the street, and I would get the most delicious perfume of something, and I'd say, "Gee, what is that? What is that?" And every day that I was going to the theater, I said, "What is that smell?" It was the orange blossom trees. And when the wind blew, oh, that was just, and that is what this smells like in a bottle. They found a way to bottle it. It is delicious. And you also can use kirsch, and kirsch is particular. It's sometimes hard to find, but you can find it, and it's like a liqueur with made out of cherries and also the cherry seeds. So it's got a little, punch to it. If you don't have that, if you can't find the orange blossom water, you can use some Cointreau too. That also works. But then what you do is you slice it in half once you have the brioche done. And I baked it with some of the pearl sugar on top of it, and also some of the streusel on top of it too. And the streusel is just pieces of sugar and brown sugar and butter that you put together, and you can break it up into little pieces. You have to freeze it, and then you can put that on top too, and it is magnificent. So this is a huge one. This is an American style tarte
Yeah,
tropezienne.
Denise, you always make those huge cakes. Ever think I remember you? There's a huge cake next to you.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, you
It's
split,
a
you cut, you
it's
split
such
that
a
in half. You see
different
that?
of the it's a different of tradition. Like in France, we do much smaller cakes, thinner,
I know.
and smaller.
Like the French would take this half and split that in half, and that would be the
Yes.
whole of the top. I know that. But this was
Yeah.
some extra dough that I had left, and I made two already. This one was the larger one, but I decided that I would go ahead and. So I don't know if this is actually even going to work because it was so frozen. But oh, before you do that, you take some of the Mediterranean syrup and you brush that, and you let that soak in like a sponge. And that's again the orange blossom water and sugar and orange zest and vanilla bean, and that is magnificent. And you
So,
let that, yeah, you let that soak in there, and that is just fantastic. So girls, while I'm doing this, if you want to get started on the salad, that's completely
well,
fine. You want to talk
I'm
about this?
taking the souffle out of the oven.
Deja.
Yes, it's time.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, it's time. Holy
So,
moly.
I don't know if you can see it well, but we
Oh,
filled it halfway, and now they're really high.
Did it turn out?
Actually, I'm just going to show them a bit better to you. So basically, they're twice as big as they were.
Yes.
Remember, we only filled them halfway. And the thing is now, somebody has to eat them very quickly.
Oops. You got one?
so they worked, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's one.
Oh.
So that's all of them. And I wish you were here so we can eat them together.
Me
too.
too. My gosh, I wish I were there. So I made a little boo-boo and I froze these things, but I think that I have some other creme that I made. I made so much of everything. Uh, so what happened to the, yeah. All right, very good. Okay, so I think this is going to bring us to, we're making the salad. I made
Okay.
another thing of the Tarte Tropezienne cream. So we'll see if we can use that. You
That's
don't
a
have
lot,
to,
Denise, but if you have a whole cast like they had for Dieu créa la femme, with Brigitte Bardot, or if you have a whole cast of an opera, you make all of this, they get eaten really quickly and appreciated.
exactly. I'll have
Yeah.
to deliver some of this to our neighbors. And we made a beautiful, beautiful salad that's all from the garden. Everything today came from the
Oh,
garden. And I did something really wonderful. As I said, I fried up the zucchini flour, which was really beautiful. Who is that?
Oh,
Someone
wow.
sends us a note today. That's Isabel. Brava ladies, what a treat to see the three of you create such delicious French cuisine. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. I do appreciate
yeah,
that.
thank you.
The time always goes by so quickly.
Denyce, this is wonderful.
Do you see that?
You remember I'm coming soon, huh? Don't keep that right?
My goodness, look at that. Look at that. That is, Ella loves this. This is one of her favorite cakes. So that is just spectacular. My goodness. So we had a second giveaway. And the second giveaway is going to be a nice bottle of French wine to the first person who can email at cookingwithdenise@gmail. What was the opera that Laurence filmed some years ago? What was the name of the opera that Laurence filmed some years ago back in Detroit? Okay, so that's done, and then we just take the top and we put the top back up. Oh,
It
the
looks
other top,
amazing, Denise.
that's ready to go. Yeah, and then you put the other top. You put some more of this Mediterranean syrup with the orange zest and the and it is so yummy. I mean, you could just drink it with a straw. It's so good. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Robert had some this morning. I was telling him, taste this, taste this. What do you think about this? And he was saying, oh my gosh, he had to run off and do an errand. And he said, I want to get back in time so that I can have some of this with you. And what about the champagne, honey?
Yes, yes, yes. I have my bottle.
Because we have to have, that's the French have champagne more than they have wine.
And Valérie, you have champagne as well?
I have
We
champagne in the fridge. I'm drinking cider because that goes with the crepe. And this cider is sparkling and it's the same color. And I'm really happy with this. But if I need to join for champagne, I can be talked into
no, it
it.
goes up. It goes up.
And there is a cave. You can visit the cave Champagne, and I know it sounds like a really touristy thing, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And for whoever comes to
Well, okay.
comes to France soon, actually, Denise, next time we're in France together, we'll go there. And Valérie, you're welcome to join.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to.
Wow,
That I would love.
that looks
Wonderful.
great.
All right, we're done over here with this, but I want to show you the salad and show you also the wonderful zucchini flowers that I fried up this morning.
Oh, yes, I
Just
want to
before the
see.
show, just before the show. I mean, actually, as we were doing our rehearsal, I was frying them up. And let me see if you can see them. And I created that batter. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh,
They're very light.
it's
They're very light.
beautiful.
And just took the flour itself, and then I took some egg yolk, just 2 egg yolk, and a cup of water, and beat that together and put in a cup of flour, and you make like a batter, almost like a pâte, like you do with the crepe. And then I put in all kinds of spices and seasonings in them, and I dipped the flour in the zucchini flowers in the batter, drop that in, and then drop that into the oil, and it takes just a few seconds, and it's done.
It's
So that's
wonderful.
wonderful. And so here's our salad. We're having a very, very imbalanced dinner today. We're having dessert. We're having dessert.
Wow, Denyce, what a salad.
Well, this is all from the garden, and I love that. And I love being able to just go outside and actually, you know, pick it myself. It's just so much fun, and it feels so much better. You know, when some years ago, as you both remember very well, when my husband was going through his challenges and everything, it became super important of the quality of the food that we were all having, right? And
Yeah.
that became really, really important to me to be able to serve really good, wholesome food and natural foods. Okay, so what do we have here, honey? I'm gonna give you one of my earbuds.
It's real champagne, right? Because the way you know that is it's called champagne, right? So you
Oh,
need
Robert, you're opening the champagne now.
Yes.
Hold that gesture.
That's my earbud.
You did? Okay. Here, you want to put that in? So you can put it in yourself. We lost an earbud. There we are. Okay, very good.
Yeah. So champagne. In order to call it champagne, it has to be from the Champagne region of France. Everything else is sparkling wine. Okay. Now, when you take the cork off, of course, there's this sort of basket that is over the cork. It's not going to explode, so don't worry about that. But if you do start pressing on it, it will. And these corks can cause a lot of damage, actually. So the proper way to do it is to actually get a hold of it, and you don't want it spilling all over the place anyway, right? And then just ease it out like that.
Very good. There we are.
If you pop it and it hits the ceiling, it also runs in all over the place. And if you're partying and you want to celebrate something, and like in the locker room or something, maybe you want that. But at dinner, you
Robert, we don't hear you, Robert.
You don't hear him very well?
Oh no, here I can hear.
Put this one in.
That's all right.
They want to hear you more.
So you want to open it below a precious chandelier or a lamp because it might hit that, and you definitely don't want to direct it towards a person's face.
Right. So you don't need to do that, though, of course, because I just took it off. If you just ease it off with your fingers over the top and not
Yeah.
press it and bounce it off the ceiling or hit somebody with it. And when you do that, it's all going to spill over as well. So you just
Yeah.
ease it up like that with your hand over it. And that's the way you want to do it when you're having dinner or something like that.
I also do it with a towel. I also do it with a towel. You put the towel in the bottle, and then you hold the towel, and then you open gently, and it stays in the towel.
Yeah, you can do it that way too.
Yeah.
So, cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
I love you all. I love you both. Thank you so much for doing this with us today.
This was so wonderful.
And
Bon appetit.
And isn't this
Yes.
gorgeous? I can't wait to eat that. I may eat that first, actually.
Dessert.
Dessert first.
That's right.
That's allowed.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Bon appetit,
everybody.
Bon appetit.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wonderful. Chin chin.
Thank
Chin
you.
chin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, so much.
I really loved every second of it. Thank you. I was really, really looking forward to it. So I just wanted to read you one of my favorite poems as we close out, and we're going to see a video of the homes too. I mean, of the homes and some of the work from.
Denyce, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Okay.
No,
I think Robert got the earbud with the microphone.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I just wanted to close out with one of my favorite poems. It's called The Cookie. It's called The Cookie Thief by Valérie Cox. Okay. A woman was waiting at the airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shops, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her as bold as he could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated by the minute, as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I would blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. And when only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve, and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned in despair, then the others were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. Is that beautiful? Is that a beautiful poem?
Wow. Thank you, Denyce.
I love the
Yeah.
generosity of this man and the sense of humor and the good spirit of this stranger. And the reason that I think that's so important, I think that right now what we all see going on in the world, and particularly in America, with all that's going around us, and I said this last week, that I think it's important for us to take our country back. We have to do it each person at a time, one by one, that we don't have to settle for what we see happening every day, and the discourse and the division and everything that's going on right now in America. We don't have to settle for that. We can decide that we will change the world one person at a time. I'm Denyce Graves. Thank you so much for allowing me into your homes. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got 3 more episodes left, and I hope to see you all. Thank you for all of the people who returned.
Did you show this cake?
My husband wants me to show you this cake. Here's to life. This is another one of the Tarte Tropezienne, typically French desserts. And now I think
we've got 3.
We've got 3.
Ménage à trois.
Ménage à trois. Very good. And I think we're going to look at one of the wonderful, here's to life, everyone. Thank you so much. We're going to watch a little bit of Laurence's film as we play out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
It was just the most incredible story. It had all of the elements of tragedy. You have these classic devouring mother, loving mother.
Not
And then you had this peculiar situation, which is enslavement, and that the institution of slavery itself forced her and other people to do extraordinary things, and often to be totally out of control. But as an example of what it takes to remain a human being in a situation that is brutalizing you and bestializing you, that is what that was about. Her determination to assert her rights in the human race, even if it meant claiming the lives of her own children.